Okay, picture this. It's day 2 of your event and you're in the middle of leading a session. Your guests are engaged, the room feels right. And then you see your assistant in the background trying to wave you down, trying to get your attention. The caterer is lost and nobody knows what to tell them. And you are standing there in the front of the room mid-sentence and thinking, why is this my problem? Because you hired people, you have a team, you gave out tasks, you prepared, and yet somehow every small item, every small question still seems to come back onto you. That is what we're going to talk about today, because what you have is not a delegation problem. It's a design problem, and there's a reason why everything keeps routing back to you. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why this keeps happening and how you can prevent it from happening in the future. Let me name something that doesn't really get talked about that much at events. There's a difference between having people there at your event with you and people who are there to actually support you. And a lot of people aren't taught to see the gaps between those two different categories. When you book a venue, you are getting a room. And when you bring a team member, you are getting a person. But just because you have somebody in that room does not mean that the room is being handled. Having someone show up is not the same as having a structure that tells that person what to do when they're there. And here's what I mean by that. A person who's there to help you is waiting for direction. They're waiting for instructions. They look to you to see what comes next. They're checking in. They ask questions. And that's not because they're lazy or incapable. It's because nothing in the environment has told them that they are able to make decisions on their own. A support team member operates differently. Not because they are a different kind of person, but because they are operating within a framework that has been set that allows them to make certain decisions and calls. They have a role, they have something that I like to call decision authority, and they have a reference points to make decisions based on when something comes up. The difference is not talent, it is the design. And I think most hosts have been operating with helpers when what they really need is a support structure. You've probably added an extra set of hands previously. Maybe you even hired someone specifically to take the logistics off your plate. And what happened? More people meant more coordination. More questions coming in. The workload didn't shrink, it just shifted. If you've ever watched a show like Downton Abbey or The Gilded Age, then you know what a fully supported structure looks like. Nobody in those households ran to the head of the house to ask questions. The staff knew their roles and they knew what was expected of them. And that structure made it possible for people to act without always having to check. Now, I'm not saying your retreat needs a butler, but the principles are the same. When the design is missing, people wait. And when people wait, they're just going to come and find you. So if your team is coming to you for everything, you should start here. It's not the people, it's the structure that's been designed under. So let me walk you through what is actually happening when your team member comes knocking on that door mid-session. She's not interrupting you because she doesn't care about what you're doing and what's happening right now. She's coming to you because she has no other options. I mean, think about it. If nobody has told her what she's allowed to do, what decisions she's allowed to make independently, or what her boundaries are, what the plan is for that exact scenario, the safest option she has is coming to you. And that's not weakness, that's rational behavior for an absence of a system that manages all of this. Here's what I see over and over again working on retreats with people. There are task lists. Sometimes there are even shared documents, but there is almost never ever a clear answer to this question. Who owns what, and what are they allowed to decide on their own? Task and ownership are two very different things. A task says, do this. Ownership, on the other hand, tells you, okay, this is your area. This is the decisions this is the area that the decisions that fall under you. And here's how you can handle it if X, Y, and Z comes up. When all you have given your team is a task list, they're going to go and complete that task and come back to you for more every single time. And it's not because they cannot think for themselves, it's just because you haven't given them permission to do so. And you might be sitting there thinking, I have tried to fix this. I know. You have tried different people. You have tried more experienced people. You have tried being more detailed in your instructions. You have tried sending out emails of all different possible scenarios. And somehow the event day still goes the exact same way. And that's because the structural gap underneath your event has stayed the same every single time. You changed the who, you changed how you communicate it, but the underlying design, that thing that will give them the actual ability and capability to take ownership of that role and that position, hasn't been built yet. Let me give you an example of how this plays out in real life. You're running a group session at your retreat and one of your team members knocks on your door and they quietly ask if the afternoon break should be extended because the caterer is running late. She needs a decision made quickly and you're the only one who can answer it. Now this is just a 2-minute conversation and it seems small, but let's take a moment to think about what's really happening here. You just left your headspace. You went from being in that room with all your clients and now you're in logistics mode. You just made a call that someone else could have made if they had the authority and the context. And by the time you come back into your session, now you've got this small gap in your presence that you've now got to rebuild and work to close. Now multiply that by 5 or 10 times for a 2-day event. That right there is where the exhaustion comes from. Not the event itself, but from having to play these 2 different roles that you shouldn't be playing at the same time. And this is the part that I really want you to hear. If you're telling yourself that the problem is you, that you're too particular about something or too type A, or even too controlling, I need you to set that down for a second. Because standards are not the issue. The absence of structure underneath those standards, that is the issue. You have high expectations, and but expectations without a structure underneath it will eventually collapse. And when they collapse, that's when you have to step in. And again, that is not a character flaw, that is a design gap. Your team is not failing you. They're doing the only thing that is available to them in an environment when no one has told them what else to do. Before we keep going, I want to mention something that pairs well with what we're talking about right now. I created a free resource called the Event Systems ROI Audit. It's a self-assessment that goes through the 5 categories of your backend, including how information flows, how your team coordinates, and where your systems might quietly be costing you money and time. If what we've been talking about today has been hitting close to home, then this audit is going to help you figure out exactly what areas probably could use some improvement. The link is down in the description, so grab it when you're ready. Okay, so let's keep going. I want you to picture yourself at your next retreat. You're standing at the entrance, you're greeting your guests. You are fully present, you are looking people in the eye. You are not checking your phone, you are not looking at timelines, you are there. And in the background, your guest experience lead is handling check-in. She is working from a brief, she is answering questions on her own, a room assignment needs to be adjusted, and she is just handling it on her own without having to check in with. Meanwhile, your logistics lead is over there coordinating with the caterer. She's the one getting updates, making those small adjustments, and updating the run of show for the rest of the team. She is communicating directly with the venue because the system that you have created has told her exactly what she needs to do in exactly those sorts of scenarios. You are not managing 2 jobs. You're doing one, which is leading the experience. This is not a fantasy. This is what happens when you have a structure that exists underneath your team. And I just want to be clear about something, that this does not require having a large team. This does not involve needing a professional event planner. This does not require needing a corporate level budget. What it requires is design, clear roles, decision authority defined, a reference point that all your team members can access when they need it. I have seen this work for groups working with intimates, 8-person retreats. I have also seen this work for groups hosting multi-day conferences with hundreds of attendees. The size may be different, but the principle is the same. When the structure is built, your people will perform. And here's the part that matters to you the most personally. When you are not split between leading and operating, your guests feel that. The experience becomes richer. Your leadership becomes more grounded. Your content lands differently because you're not managing something else at the same time. The retreat reflects your standards because now fully present to be able to protect them. Right now, that picture that you're imagining of caring what your retreat could feel like, that picture is not naive. It is structurally achievable. It just requires a different type of preparation that most people aren't typically taught. So here is where we are. You now understand that the recurring pattern, the multiple questions, the check-in, the interruptions, etc., is not something wrong with your team. And it's not something wrong with you. It's just a structural gap. And structural gaps have structural fixes. So the next question is, what does that actual structure look like? What are the specific roles that your retreat needs? How do you assign ownership instead of how do you build a team design that gives your people the permission and the authority to make those decisions without you? That is exactly what the next video covers. I'm going to walk you through the roles that your retreat actually needs and how to fill each one of them with real ownership instead of good intention. Click the video on your screen to watch it next. And if this is your first time finding this channel, I'd love for you to stick around. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Until next time.